Hello and welcome to News Tonight. I'm Rhoda Ngonzi on sign language, Mugalu Mohammed.
And I'm Patricia Lokoma. I'll be joining you on the business desk.
Let's start with the headlines. President Museveni mourns former Premier Sigambi to be accorded state burial. Chambogo University embraces move by URA to collect tuition fees. The US warns Uganda over rising debt burden. While main celebrants for Namugongo Matters Day arrive safely. And in sports, Uganda ladies win gold at the Woodball Cup. Once again, President Yoweri Museveni has highly commended religious leaders in Uganda for the cooperation and unity that they have exhibited ever since the movement government came to power. The president was addressing guests at the iftar dinner that he hosted for the Muslim community last night at State House in Entebbe. The Muslim faithful world over are observing the fasting month of Ramadan that is soon coming to an end.
President Yoweri Museveni yesterday hosted the Muslim community to iftar dinner at State House in Entebbe. The Muslim faithful all over the world are currently in the fasting month of Ramadan that is soon coming to an end.
You know, when we were fighting in the bush and when we come from the bush, the religious groups were fighting among themselves. We came with we were preaching. We were fighters, but preaching religion. And the religious groups were fighting. So, but when we came, they also saw what we were doing, and that they formed the Inter-Religious Council in 2002.
The president highly commended religious leaders in Uganda for the cooperation and unity that they have exhibited ever since the movement government came to power.
Because you cannot say that you are religious when you are telling us to be unreligious, to fight one another. How can fighting one another be part of religion?
President Museveni congratulated the Muslims for almost finishing the holy month of Ramadan and noted that for the countries that are located in the Middle East and are faced with never-ending conflicts, they must critically analyze and realize that these conflicts of identity are not leading their people to prosperity, but rather to death and poverty.
We must analyze, are they helping our Rafahiyya? Are they helping our maslaha or not? If they are not, then we should really, because here it was the same problem here in Uganda. Conflict, religion, tribes, what? Until we had to stand up and fight against them.
Cabinet ministers, judges, envoys from Egypt, Tanzania, United Arab Emirates, Sudan, Turkey, Libya, Saudi Arabia, and Christian religious leaders also attended the dinner.
Your Excellency, let me thank you for the good governance of the Republic of Uganda and the people of Uganda.
The Mufti of Uganda, His Eminence Sheikh Shaban Ramadan Mubaje, thanked President Museveni for the continued support to the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council projects. He also reiterated the Muslim women's gratitude to the First Lady, Mrs. Janet Museveni, for supporting their circle.
From her own packet in Sente Yechichala, government Yonzibu, she contributed some good money to start off the Muslim Women's Circle. We are very grateful for you and Mama Janet Museveni.
He called upon Muslims in other parts of the world to seek solving their challenges peacefully as opposed to war. UBC TV, Harriet Nambi.
Meanwhile, President Yoweri Museveni and the First Lady Janet Museveni today joined the family members and friends of former Premier Professor Apollo Nsibambi, who died yesterday at his home in Bulange Mengo, Rubaga Division, Kampala District. The 78-year-old former Premier succumbed to a combination of cancer of the bones and diabetes. He served as Prime Minister from April 1999 to 2011. He was an education icon and first non-head of state chancellor of Makerere University, a position he held from October 2003 to October 2007. Now, addressing mourners, President Museveni said that Uganda had been very peaceful for a good period of time because of having people with different backgrounds ranging from the academia, like the late Professor Nsibambi, the Wananchi, and the Bush War veterans.
Kati, njagala kwebaza Professor Nsibambi kubanga yakola ebintu nga bisatu. Ekisooka wamu n'abanne ba profesa twasobola okutegeragana nabo ku by'emisaala. Balina ebirowoozo byabwe, naffe twalina ebyaffe, ne tutegeragana nti tewali ekyetaagisa okulemesa. Katukolere wamu mpola mpola tugenda kutuuka gye tulaga. So n'olwekyo ba profesa abo bakola omulimu mulungi n'okusingira ddala Professor Nsibambi. Ekyokubiri, yali nnyo mu by'emmengo ebya Buganda bye bayitanga ebyaffe, kubanga yali akulembera akakiiko akaali kateesa naffe aba gavumenti. N'olwekyo yali ku ludda olwo olw'ebyennono. Awo yateekako etafaali okugatta ffe banansiko, kubanga ffe tuli bansiko, okutugatta n'ab'emmengo ab'ennono. Era abadde akikola okumala obudde bwonna bwe tumaze mu gavumenti. Kati ekyokusatu, naleeta Makerere akademia nagigatta ku ffe abanansiko.
I believe that Uganda has really lost a great son and a wonderful person. We valued his friendship and his work with us, and we knew that he loved serving the people of Uganda. And those of us who were working closely with him really learned so much from him. So we wanted to come, the President and himself wanted to come and just talk to the family alone and give your condolences, because you must know that we are with you in spirit, even when we are not here with you all the time.
The former Prime Minister now let Professor Apollo Nsibambi is to be accorded a state burial. Prime Minister Dr. Ruhakana Rugunda, who describes Nsibambi as a disciplined man, says the deceased will be honored at Parliament on Friday morning. Nsibambi's burial is slated for Tuesday the 4th of June, with the state expressing readiness to cater for burial expenses.
A disciplined man whose example of an incorruptible icon is more agreeable of who former Prime Minister Professor Apollo Nsibambi was. This is the path that Ugandans are encouraged to embark on.
For those of us who are in government, and the public should know, that Apollo Nsibambi, more than anyone else, played a critical role to have the structure, the framework, and the authority of the office of the Prime Minister.
This was part of the condolence message delivered by Uganda's current Prime Minister, Dr. Ruhakana Rugunda. This he did as he announced the tentative program for Nsibambi's funeral arrangements.
On Friday at 10, his body will lie in state in Parliament, so that members of Parliament and the people of Uganda can come and pay their tribute and respects to our departed elder. Then on Saturday and Sunday, there will be church service again at Blange at his home at 6 p.m. This will be 6 in the evening.
It will be after that his body will arrive at his home in Bulange for an overnight vigil before a church service at Namirembe Cathedral on Tuesday morning. Burial is slated for Tuesday afternoon on the 4th of June 2019 at Buloba in Wakiso district. Nsibambi, who served as the Chancellor of Makerere University, was replaced by Professor Mondo Kagonyera. Kagonyera says, to some extent, he could not feel in Nsibambi's shoes.
We were together in the Senate, the top academic organ at Makerere University during Amini's days. Professor Nsibambi was a very open-minded man. He was very frank. He's one of the few who would speak their mind during those difficult Amini's days. Therefore, much as I could think of feeling his shoes, there are certain attributes of his that I couldn't measure up to.
Professor Apollo Nsibambi is survived by a wife, Esther Nsibambi, children and grandchildren. Henry Okurut, UBC.
Sister Betty.
Now, the late professor has been described as one who was honest in behavior and at service. He is also the person behind the policy of paying public servants salaries in time. Meanwhile, Buganda Kingdom, because of the late Nsibambi's dedicated service in its government, is working with the family and central government on the burial preparations.
People continue to flock Professor Apollo Nsibambi's home in Mengo to mourn with the family following his demise last evening. The somber mood in this place has not left behind professors from Makerere University, former students of the late, Christians of Namirembe Cathedral Church, his former workmates from different government departments, relatives and friends. They have described the late as one who has died before realizing his dream of Uganda's national language, and as a teacher who has supported many in achieving their life dreams.
And in his practical world, there was no such a thing as tribe or religion of someone. He cherished everybody as long as you had something good to offer. Secondly, he mentored many people, including myself. He established, before he left public service ministry, he established the principle that salaries should be paid promptly at the end of the month. It is still happening up to now.
Local languages. The late had put in a lot of effort to make sure that we have organized local languages which can be used officially.
Flavia Matovu, a woman leader at Namirembe St. Paul's Cathedral, says the late has left a legacy of being a clean man with no bad record, even though he served government for a long time.
He's a person who never cheated his people whom he's following, just embezzling funds. Has been honest. Nobody has talked about him that he has embezzled funds of the government. He knew his role. He knew the people he's serving.
The spokesperson of Nsibambi family, Geoffrey Ziwa, appreciated government for trusting Professor Nsibambi with a duty to serve his country and supporting him in the time of need.
Was a role model, areas of life, in church, in the Kabaka's government. As the president has said, he was the chief negotiator when the kingdom was negotiating or was demanding for the return of the assets.
Meanwhile, the Kabaka of Buganda, Ronald Mwenda Mutebi II, has instituted a committee to work with the family and central government since late Professor Nsibambi was key in restoring Buganda property.
Also served on the Biafra committee, the committee which was tasked to negotiate with the central government to return the land and other properties of the kingdom of Buganda. He also served on the committee that gathered the input from Buganda that was presented to Justice Odoki Commission during the constitutional review.
Burial of late Professor Apollon Nsibambi is expected to take place on Tuesday next week as they wait for his relatives abroad, especially his children, to arrive in the country. I'm Nafka Farida and Benadiga reporting.
Members of Parliament have spoken fondly of the former Prime Minister, with some describing him as unmatched.
He was a corrupt-free person. He was an honest gentleman, a timekeeper. Those are the few key areas, not that because of fundings that were provided or the means, but through the acts that he did, that have managed to implore us, the youth, to make sure that we live to the life today.
You also remember he participated a lot in the dialogue between government and the Buganda Kingdom, and this has caused a lot of programs to move in terms of return of whatever was due to the kingdom and support across the board for the betterment of all of us in this nation. But what I've learned about him, that if you are a man of your word, you keep time, you are trusted, even if you go anywhere, you will be surviving. Not those who, like some of our colleagues who live here, when they walk on Kampala Road, or even in their villages, they are chased as if even a dog cannot be chased, but for them they are chased even worse than dogs, which you have told. They are like thieves. So I want to call on Ugandans that, please, this country belongs to all of us. Let us follow Professor Nsibambi. Let us be one of those who love it, and let us say bad is bad, good is good.
He retired diligently and remained as an elder, and he remained in a council of elders who at any time would give any free advice to any of us, the young politician. It is true, it is him in most cases, whenever we could come to Parliament as young leaders, watch him make submissions in the Parliament. Even if you look at the Hansards, his records and his submissions have remained very, very outstanding and strong in the development of our country. I really want to say this as a young leader and a leader today and tomorrow. It's a great loss to this country, and I want to call upon most of us to emulate the attributes of Professor Nsibambi, because he's a leader who has gone so early.
Further still, this is Apollon Nsibambi through the eyes of those who knew him.
Demise of former Prime Minister Professor Apollo Robin Nsibambi, different personalities have shared their unforgettable moments the late leaves behind. His passionate nature about timekeeping, incorruptible and God-fearing is a simple description of the late Nsibambi. One of Nsibambi's greatest touches of intellect was about the East African politics and the federation conception, Luchamzi recalls.
I met Professor Nsibambi at Makerere University when he was the warden of Livingstone Hall. At the same time, a part-time lecturer in the Department of Political Science, where I served as a special research assistant for the late Professor Ali Mazoi. In the Department of Political Science, he excelled on all matters related to kingdom governance, matters related to federalism, and matters related to the African local traditional leadership.
About the death of my dear friend, my teacher, my mentor. He inspired me to become what I have become.
But who was Professor Apollon Nsibambi as a lecturer?
He was one of the most glorified lecturers of Political Science at the Department of Political Science. During that time, Professor Mazoi had brought his image on top of the intellectual world in Uganda and Africa.
Former Rubaga South Member of Parliament John Ken Luchamzi describes late Professor Nsibambi as a man of his words, corrupt-free servant, uniting character, and the most impressive leader of government business since the NRM came to power.
One of the reasons why President Museveni liked him, he conquered every aspect of critique that was floated by the opposition, and he never allowed it to create a space where government would lose. He was vocal, he was understanding, he respected every critique, and he took time to vision out answers which were not only credible, but answers that commanded respect on behalf of the leader of government business.
Luchamzi has faulted government for not recognizing Professor Apollo Nsibambi with a medal in regard to his service to the country in the many portfolios he held before retiring in 2011.
President Museveni should have considered him to have become a medalist because he had all the potential and the capabilities and respect.
As a Christian, Professor Nsibambi was a great contributor and builder of the Body of Christ.
He's a man of his word in church. Of course, even in the nation, he's a man of his word. He's a man of time. He's a man of integrity. He's a man who walks his talk. Even in church, if you do something wrong in church, whether you're a bishop, you're an archbishop, you're a priest, he's a man who will come and tell you. He will not speak behind your back. Time he told me, whether it has rained or not, 10 is 10, 9 is 9.
Reverend Samuel Mwonge of Namirembe Diocese says, although Nsibambi departs in body and spirit, his legacy remains.
I am sure that one day, we will meet him. And it's a challenge to so many political leaders, so many of them, beginning with His Excellency, who says he got saved and he backslid. I think now you could take this from this, your child, the people you've been working with, that one day, we are going to die. I want to testify that I attend fellowships every Friday at the diocese. Every Friday we have fellowships from 5. Professor and the wife would keep time. They will not miss fellowship unless they're not in the country or they are sick.
Former Prime Minister Professor Apollo Nsibambi served both central and Buganda governments in equal measure, exhibiting a rare personality that will forever be missed.
Olwesiteekyo Bagasta ndaba nastange tufiristiddwa nnyo sitonyo omusasta jjo mugustumu fesitefe abastantu be Bugastanda.
Farewell thee, Professor Apollo Robin Nsibambi. Mutonyi Hilda and Kimono Dorcas for UBC.
He did live a noble life. May his soul rest in peace. Now, police are investigating today's shocking daytime robbery in which 3 people were shot dead in Nansana and several others injured. The shooting that happened around 2 p.m. occurred as workers at the cheap hardware were preparing to bank the day's sales, which sources say stretched into millions of shillings that the thugs fled with. Kampala Metropolitan Police spokesperson confirmed the shooting incident but claimed it was only 2 workers who had been shot dead. Onyango Patrick noted that the robbers were traveling on unidentified motorcycles, that 3 of them were armed with AK-47 rifles. According to eyewitnesses, the armed men, who were about 6 in number, stormed the hardware and immediately started shooting randomly. 2 workers were shot dead at the counter, while another worker was killed outside the hardware store. By press time, several security agencies, including the army and police, had sent their officers, who cordoned off the scene and tried to dust it in order to recover any evidence.
Kakola mu taxi bamukubya amasasi afudde alako nokubanga afudde kubanga bamukubya amasasi bamukubya mu afudde maji video bali bamukubyayo afadde no mukaba kale emotoka egende
The main celebrant in this year's Namugongo Matters Day celebrations, Gulu Archdiocese, has finally arrived at the shrine with no major casualties. The pilgrims started off their journey from Gulu Archdiocese on 15th May, trekking over 350 kilometers for 14 days. Arrival of the main celebrant has so far brought the total number of pilgrims already at Namugongo close to 1,000. Our reporter Philip Aguta was there and brings us the story.
Pilgrims from Gulu Archdiocese could not hide their excitement as they successfully arrived at Namugongo Matters Shrine at about 3:30 on Wednesday. Their arrival at Namugongo marks the end of over 350 kilometers trek from Gulu to Namugongo in 14 days.
Yeah, the journey was kind of challenging at the beginning, but as we kept on moving, people grew stronger. And right now, as I can speak, we are very strong. We can even move more, whatever.
I'm so happy for them because most people, maybe they think that they cannot make it. Then I said, build up your faith. It is concern of the faith.
I'm very happy that at least all of them, they have arrived here safely. I'm very grateful. And I pray that the faith which they have manifested should really be an example to all of us.
Prominent among them who made it to Namugongo is the former presidential candidate Olara Otuno.
This is a walk of faith. It's a very personal decision because fortunately before God there are no positions, there are no ranks. I come as Olara. So I've come to this walk simply as Olara, joined with all my brothers and sisters, 350 of them, and we walked together, we danced together, we prayed together, we've eaten together for 12 days. It's a wonderful fellowship, very humbling, very inspiring.
Earlier on Wednesday, the journey started at Matuga Trading Center in Wakiso district where they had spent their night on Tuesday. Trekked through Kawempe to Boise and rested at Kalerwe, a Kampala suburb, at about 11 a.m. After an hour's rest, the pilgrims trekked from Kalerwe to Nalia via Kisasi amidst heavy traffic jam before arriving at Namugongo. According to officials, about 1,000 pilgrims have already arrived at Namugongo and thousands more are expected before the D-Day on Monday 3rd. Philip Aguta reporting.
Meanwhile, residents of Chigolovia Chavisagazi village in Wema district have decried to the Commission of Inquiry into Land Matters the injustices inflicted on them by Awan Agaba Edgar, forcing them to vacate the land they have occupied for decades to create space for sugarcane plantation. The chairman, LC1 Chavasigaza, Achelis Simon, requested the land inquiry to make sure that they regain their land and make restrictions on Edgar Agaba to stop the torture and imprisonment of the occupants.
Despite parliamentary efforts of resettling over 1,000 people on 483 hectares, many were re-evicted with some still rotting in jail. The chairperson, LC3 Chavasigazi Village, Achille Simon, informed commissioners how they were evicted with the alleged aid of police and the army making some arrests.
So these people invaded the area and with some policemen and army men, whereby some people were arrested. 77 people were arrested. Currently, We have 35 who are still in prison.
It came to the inquiry's attention how capital punishments have been opened up against some residents of Chigolobia.
The men in prison are being held on offences such as robbery, aggravated robbery, murder, and such offences of a nature where if you were convicted, you'd be sentenced to death.
Kabengi Godfrey, also a resident of Chigolobia, narrated to the commissioners what really transpired when parliamentarians visited the contested land.
By the time when parliamentary team came at Hoima, we sat together with them, the meeting at Gloria Summit. By that time, people were back on the land. After 2 weeks, when people were there, they started planting the maize, they planted their beans. After that, after 2 weeks, we saw policemen and the armies come again and torture people.
Achille Simon says they are facing a challenge of food and shelter because what they had was destroyed, stolen by police and the army.
There is a woman whose daughter was also raped, and probably that woman also feared that those people who raped him or her already they have transmitted disease to her, so she has decided to escape away and left the child with the grandmother who is there with her.
Justice Catherine Bamugemerere appealed to the Office of the Prime Minister to come up and help persons affected by land injustices because issues of land have caused internal displacements.
And because there is now a spate of evictions and internal displacements, there is need for the Office of the Prime Minister to take interest in these cases, because people appeal to us and they think we're probably not doing enough. But it's really because I think we all need to know this is a problem, and maybe if other departments come in, people can get help. But the most important of all, and with the help of all of you, we can get to the bottom and find solutions to this whole issue of land that is causing these evictions that are very sad and causing so much harm.
Among the property destroyed is a church, residential houses and schools. The commission is to fully investigate the matter. Sudat Kai reporting.
And with that, we'll take a quick break. When we return, Patricia Lukoma will take over with the business desk.
Every dream has a challenging journey. Ours began in 1998 with a mission to drive the development of a robust communications sector in Uganda. We created structures to champion the dream. We've evolved, made discoveries, supported great minds, empowered Ugandans, and fostered a vibrant culture, enabling communication for all. Down the years, we've created memories and networks, uniting generations and building great partnerships. Together, we can go even further. UCC, celebrating 20 years of achievements.
Hello, my name is, as usual, Mr. Budget. Now, the major aim of decentralization is to bring services closer to the people. You see, majority of Ugandans are actually served by their local governments. The overall local government allocation for the next financial year is 3.8 trillion shillings. Good money, right? And 2.8 trillion shillings of this is recurrent expenditure, while 948 billion shillings is development expenditure. The big question though is this enough for local governments to bring services closer to their people? Let's find out together at the budget reading on the 13th of June 2019. Our budget, our responsibility.
This message is brought to you by CS Bag,
Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and URA.
This is the Business Desk, and I'm Patricia Lokoma. Starting off with Uganda employers, the Federation of Uganda Employers is laying strategies to create more jobs and ensure good working relations between employers and their employees in the coming 5 years, as we hear in this report.
The Executive Director, Federation of Uganda Employers, Douglas Opio, says they are making good progress in fostering dialogue between employers and employees for businesses to thrive.
So first and foremost, we are looking at strengthening businesses. We want to contribute to the attainment of our Vision 2040. So we want more jobs to be created. So over the next 5 years, we want the government to create a better environment for businesses to thrive. Essentially for more jobs to be created. We are also looking at issues of existing labor laws.
Opio spoke at the sidelines of their board meeting in Entebbe as they discussed how best the new board will help the Federation deliver to the expectations of employees in the next 5 years. According to the new chairperson of the board, Engineer Dr. Silva Mugisha, in the year 2019 to 2023, they are looking at influencing policy to create more employment and develop the economy.
If this federation is going to do whatever it is going to do, it must be financially sustainable. And therefore, what value proposition can it offer to its members so that members can feel like coming to join it, and when they join it, they can stay in it, and they can be happy with the services that the federation is bringing on board. We also discussed the role of women. We have a very good segment in the federation, Women of the Future. And we want to see how our women can be encouraged to go into a management position, into leadership positions. So there's a special segment under the federation.
He adds that they are to attract more membership from the current 600 members and increase visibility. Board members think being a voice to the working community will help the federation become more relevant to the society.
Mindful that we do not exist as employers just for the sake. There are impacts that we make to the community where we work, but also our employees as a community. So we need to be able to put forward initiatives that not only make impact to us as employers, but to our communities where we serve and our communities where we live. We also need to advance the policies and the environment in which we operate to make ourselves competitive as a labor market.
During this year's Labor Day celebrations in Agago district, last month President Yoweri Museveni tasked the new leadership to help farmers move from subsistence farming to modern farming in order to create more jobs for Ugandans. Bernard Iga, UBC TV.
And in the education sector, Kyambogo University has embraced the process of Uganda Revenue Authority collecting the internal revenue from all public universities with the effect from the financial year 2019-2020. The Vice-Chancellor, Professor Eli Katunguka, says in handling emergency issues, this will affect the smooth running of the university. Professor Eli Katunguka said this during the press conference held at Kyambogo University this morning, as we hear in this report.
For their holidays. So fees collection accounts, we actually don't know what is going to happen, but what we are told now is that all fees collection accounts in all public universities will be closed. And there will be only one URA account. So all the money that comes in as fees will go to that URA account. Say me in Kyambogo, I don't support it. The best thing you can do is to discuss with government, discuss your challenges, and together see how best you can apply that. Because if it's a directive from government, it's a directive and it affects all. The university receives money from two sources, or three. One, government subvention. Two, the fees from students. And three, donors and other activities. So we are told that all this money belongs to government and government, through its cabinet, decided that URA will collect this money. For example, government decided that next year, government departments will not buy vehicles. So you are not allowed to budget for purchase of vehicles. That is one policy guideline that has come. Next year, no buying vehicles. So once the government has come up with that directive, you can't say, I want money to buy a vehicle. So they tell you, money for vehicles? No. And using the system, they don't put money on vehicles. So you can't buy money, you can't buy vehicles. But there is room for negotiation with them on how to use that money. Because what they tell us now is that rest assured that the money you collect will eventually come back to you. We hope they will live by their promise. So each student has been able to pay fees through the banks. We have a number of banks with fees collection accounts. So once the student pays this money into the bank, it is consolidated and then taken to the consolidated fund.
Now, a report on migrant domestic workers to the Middle East countries is outpinning government for delaying to streamline relations with some of the nation's countries where these girls end up trafficked. According to the International Domestic Workers Federation and the HTA's union, the migrant domestic workers have continued to suffer immensely due to torture, sexual harassment, overwork, and above all, exorbitant extortions from recruitment agencies. This comes at a time when many Ugandan youth are lining up at the recruitment agencies to go to the Middle East in search for employment.
You have no means of coming back.
Trafficking of Ugandan girls to work as domestic workers in the Middle East came into limelight in 2015 when a number of girls were brutally tortured in countries including Oman, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and many others. This prompted the government of Uganda to slap a ban on migrant domestic workers' recruitment till an understanding was reached between the royal governments of Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Uganda. In its research on the Ugandan migrant domestic workers in all destination Middle East countries, the Uganda Hotels, Food Tourism and Allied Workers Union, in partnership with the International Domestic Workers Federation, puts blame on delayed terms between Uganda and some of these labor destination countries.
The government of Uganda is pursuing negotiations of agreements with other Middle East countries, and these include Oman, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait.
The lead researcher on the predicaments of migrant domestic workers, Asumputa Namaganda, further reveals that most of the recruitment agencies still extort large sums of money on the migrant domestic workers, despite the gender ministry warning on the practice.
As we interviewed these domestic workers, we realized they were being charged from the amount of 210,000 to 2.5 million.
The director at the Global Alliance Against Trafficking in Women, Bandana Patanaik, is disturbed by the way some reports are dramatized.
We must not generalize at this moment, because what will happen is this sensationalization at the end will stigmatize the women. Everybody will say, oh, everyone who goes to the Middle East turns mad. Everyone who goes there commits suicide. That's not the case.
Meanwhile, one of the representatives of the recruitment agencies from Dream Connect, Wamani Crispus John, denies extorting money, adding that it could be some of these agencies who were not registered with the Ministry of Gender.
Group of people who have taken it upon themselves. They, I would say, they are the proverbial wolf in sheepskin. They claim that they are helping our people to get for them employment. We, for us in the industry, call them agents. Now, these agents go to the grassroots and recruit these people. They go to mosques, they go to churches, and they go to communities, to local.
However, not all is gloom, as the report findings put it that the over 20,000 girls working as domestic workers in the Middle East earn a better living than those that stayed back home.
Migration has provided employment opportunities to Uganda migrant domestic workers and hence improved their living conditions and those of their families.
David Matovo and Douglas Setumba with this report.
Now, in the infrastructure sector, the U.S. government has urged Uganda to focus its investment priorities in order to enhance socio-economic growth. According to some of the report, addressing a multi-sectoral workshop on the best practices for project financing in Uganda's infrastructure sector, Deborah Malak, the U.S. ambassador to Uganda, underscored the importance of government investing in people. Ambassador Malak highlighted some of the macroeconomic impact of the current stock of public debt for some of the infrastructural projects that the government has undertaken in the last decade, as Dennis Sigawa reports.
Over the past 5 years, the government of Uganda has increasingly turned to non-concessional loans for project financing, and over this period, the debt-to-GDP ratio increased by 70%. The loans have been used primarily in funding multi-million-dollar infrastructural projects, such as the construction of the Karuma Power Dam, Entebbe Expressway, and the New Nile Bridge, among others. The project, from the government's perspective, will have significant return on investment in the long term.
If I don't put money into infrastructure so that the economy can grow, how do I sustainably finance the social sectors? So you see the dilemma that we are having.
However, the United States of America is cautioning Uganda on its insatiable borrowing appetite. According to Deborah Malak, the U.S. envoy to Uganda, there is need for controlling the borrowing as well as government refocusing its investment priorities if the country is to ensure sustainable socioeconomic growth.
Looking at things, what's happened in Kenya in terms of the debt level, what's happened in Zambia, that's exactly why we're trying to sound the alarm, if you will, to the government here to say you don't want to get there, because once you're there, it's a lot harder to get yourself out of it, right? And you already have a fairly substantial debt service requirement in Uganda, and so you need to be very careful and very judicious about where you go from here.
In the fiscal year 2017-2018 alone, Uganda's total debt increased by 22%. Ambassador Malak says that some of the single country non-concessional loans do not have particularly favorable terms for Uganda. If the country defaults, assets could be seized.
Not saying that you should never continue to borrow, but you need to really do a cost-benefit analysis in terms of what the true cost of that borrowing may be. And a lot of it is not as concessional as it seems to be on the front end, and it comes often with a lot of strings on the back end that can also be difficult, whether they seize an asset, whether you just simply default.
Meanwhile, the U.S. government has committed to work hand in hand with the government of Uganda to help it make the most of its unique opportunity to shape the country's future. With at least 20% of the 2019-2020 budget dedicated to paying off interest on loans and at least 1 shilling out of 5 shillings collected as revenue following the same path, there is cause to worry, cautions the U.S. government. Dennis Sigawa for UBC News.
Well, thank you there very much, Dennis Sigawa. It's time for us to look at what's making the money markets. Yesterday's trend on the shilling was a little bit appreciative by 3,755.33, and of course that was relatively buying and selling. Today's trend is a bit different. There's another slight appreciation by decimals, turning to 3,754.33 on the shilling, that is buying, and then 3,764.33 selling respectively. With the pound, the euro, the Kenyan shilling, the Tanzanian shilling, we still see a bit of a stronghold with the shilling against all these other currencies, as we see in this preview.
My name is, as usual, Mr. Budget. Now, the major aim of decentralization is to bring services closer to the people. You see, majority of Ugandans are actually served by their local governments. The overall local government allocation for the next financial year is 3.8 trillion shillings. Good money, right? And 2.8 trillion shillings of this is recurrent expenditure, while 948 billion shillings is development expenditure. The big question though is this enough for local governments to bring services closer to their people? Let's find out together at the budget reading on the 13th of June 2019. Our budget, our responsibility.
This message is brought to you by CS Bag, Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and URA.
Well, that's all we had time for in our business segment. Back to you, Rhoda.
Now in sports news, the Nazi met today at the Second Beach Wood.
Uganda ladies national football team has won the nation's first gold medal at the ongoing second Beach Football World Cup at Spena Beach in Entebbe. The team of Sandra Nabagala, Denise Nanjeru, Joyce Nalubega and John Mukova squad combined 191 strokes to win the gold medal ahead of Chinese Taipei and China. In the men's team event, Chinese Taipei and Uganda A are tied at 179 points. In the men's singles category, Wang Qian of Chinese Taipei has scored 39 strokes and leads compatriot Li Changhan and Ugandan Bridge Biamokama by 1 stroke going into the final round on Thursday. The women's singles are dominated by Chinese Taipei's Wei Peiki with 41 strokes, but closely pursued by Ugandan Sandra Nabagala and Denise Nanjeru with 44 and 47 respectively. Side by side the action at the Africa Football Workshop has climaxed, with Uganda Football Federation President Paul Makayongo impressed.
The main reason for organizing this workshop was to give extra capacity to our football people, to enhance their knowledge in football sport, so that we strengthen their theories as a basis to enable them to practically eventually learn the sport. And I think as organizers we have achieved this mission amidst all the challenges.
The second Beach Football World Cup and the 6th International Uganda Open Tournament that has witnessed Day 1 action climax on Thursday. John Barnes, Centamo, reporting.
Meanwhile, Uganda's power lifter Roy Mubiru made Uganda proud on 19th May this year after winning gold in the 29th World Powerlifting Alliance World Championship in Ukraine. Competing in the 125 kilogram master division, Mubiru lifted a total of 555 kilograms in the deadlifts, squat and bench press to emerge the best in the category. He was the sole representative from Africa in the championship that attracted lifters from 24 countries. Recently, Mubiru competed in the super heavyweight masters division, where he also scooped 4 gold medals in each lift. After the Ukraine event, Mubiru is planning to take a break home ahead of his next competition, the 2019 USA Powerlifting Baltimore Open Championship. Speaking at his best camp in America, he said he is planning for massive return home to present his accolade to President Yoweri Museveni, who paid 29 million shillings to enable him participate in the competition. Early this year, Mubiru was appointed as director of the American Powerlifting Association in Africa and was nominated as a member of the World Powerlifting Association Board. top stories for the night as we wind up. President mourns former Premier Nsibambi to be accorded state burial. Chambogo University embraces move by URA to collect tuition fees. US warns Uganda over rising debt burden. While main celebrants for Namugongo Matters Day arrive safely. And in the world of sports, Uganda's ladies win gold at Woodbourne World Cup. And that does it for tonight. Thank you for watching News Tonight. I'm Rhoda Ngonzi, Mugalu Mohammed on sign language.
And I'm Patricia Lukoma. Always a pleasure. For now, good night.